But what's extraordinary about your case is that, you know, by the standards of the Irish Jewish community, you were regarded as the most friendly, pro writer in the space. That didn't seem to count. And then you went and you won a legal action for defamation against RTE on the grounds of calling you a Holocaust denier, which was completely and utterly without any substance whatsoever. They chose to defend it. They then settled with you, and then they announced the apology was part of the settlement, and then they pulled it from the actual recording itself.
Yeah, that's right. The podcast, the apology was removed from the podcast, and RTE News never reported the settlement, which was very large, and nor, incredibly, did the Irish Times. This was part of a program, if you like, from the Irish Times, because my memoir, which had been in preparation when I was destroyed in 2017, when it came out 2 years ago, the Irish Times did commission a review from Anne Harris. I don't know what the review said, but it was taken down from the page, and it has never appeared since. So the Irish Times never reviewed a book about the Irish Times. This is unprecedented. I joined the Irish Times in 1980 and remained in the Irish Times till 2006. So this is a quarter of a century of an insight into the Irish Times life, and the Irish Times didn't carry a review of a book about itself. This has no precedent in Irish media. And it never reported the book was published. And RTE, Claire Burns' program on RTE radio program, said that they would give me an interview provided that Claire Burns' radio program got an exclusive, daytime exclusive for the publication of the book, which was called Burning Heresies. And my publishers gave Claire Burns' program makers an undertaking that there would be no interviews. So there was a lot of interest from a number of radio outlets, but we had to say no for that week. And then Claire Burns' program cancelled my interview. So that my memoir got no publicity whatsoever, almost no publicity, 2 good reviews in the Sunday Independent and the Irish Independent. And the reviewer in the Irish Independent was Alan Shatter, who is himself Jewish. And it was a very positive and affirmative review, denying all the allegations about me. But that made no difference. So when Official Ireland, that's the term Eamon Dunphy, I think, christened, invented, turns on you, it does turn on you. It is comprehensive and remorseless and unforgiving.
It is, yes, but I suppose the origin of the point I was trying to make and the question I put to you was, we're talking here about senior journalists in RTE, the state broadcaster, and in the Irish Times, basically going with a Twitter mob. Now, I know you don't use social media very much, and you must have woken up on the Sunday morning absolutely amazed at what had happened while you were asleep, and just knowing that without any recourse to you, because I was watching it closely at the time, horrified myself. Just decided to put the boot in completely.
Yeah, they must hate me, which is fine. I don't particularly respect them. I was, what's the right word to describe my feelings about the Irish Times? Well, disappointed is putting it mildly. It was an extraordinary thing that the Irish Times, to which I had been a faithful servant over the decades, for which I had covered the wars in Bosnia and Beirut, and I don't want to blow my own trumpet here, at very considerable risk to myself, should have turned on me. Now, the letters page means nothing in the newspaper. That depends entirely on the whims of the editor of the letters page. And I know from personal experience that it's not a reflection of public opinion. I can say that from Ireland, I got an overwhelming body of support, both popularly here in Kildare and Blessington and Ballymore, Blessington being the Wicklow, but in my neighbouring town and in Ballymore, Eustace and in Naas, everyone was saying, this is madness. Ordinary people were coming up to me and shaking me by the hand and saying, look, this is unspeakable, inexcusable. But within the media in Ireland, there was joy and ululation at my downfall. I mean, one of the headlines was Myers gets his, in the Irish Times, Myers gets his comeuppance at last. Um, Kathy Sheridan, who rejoiced in what was happening to me, said that she made up a series of lines about my misogyny and my patronizing of women, except she's fine. If she'd ever made the accusation before, in the entire 20th century, she had never made such an accusation. Yet suddenly everyone was confirming one another in their loathing for Kevin Myers, which merely confirms my being correct in loathing or despising them. You don't loathe, no sensible people
Yeah.
loathe anybody, but you do despise people.
But
And I despise those people.
But I know I'm focusing on you as the example on it, Kevin. But like I'm talking here about a phenomenon where I'm asking you. I mean, is journalism therefore not just because of your case, but other like if you look at the behaviour of the media over the last number of years around the whole, there was no tackling at all of public health policy around COVID. There just seems to be the complete death of the fourth estate.
I'm really glad you mentioned COVID, but the COVID thing, because that was simply monstrous. Not merely the monstrous in being the way the society was shut down, but was monstrous was the media did not seriously interrogate government officials and politicians who are making decisions about not the people today, but about the future generations who would have to pay back the debts incurred 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, and so on, and are still being those debts are still being incurred.